the American people turn on the Chinese, politically, and the United States announces the next day, Canada, the U.S., Australia, Argentina, and Brazil, we just decided to form an organization of food exporting countries. How do you think they would react to that? I mean,
terrified.
They'd be terrified.
Elon Musk single-handedly caused the price of Bitcoin to dip 5% within minutes of a single tweet. The announcement that Tesla would no longer accept Bitcoin as a form of payment for its vehicles. He stated the main reason being too much increased electricity usage and fossil fuels to mine Bitcoin. And although the entire crypto market may have fallen, investors in other coins like Shiba Inu saw returns as high as 120% within their first few days of the launch. Staying ahead of the curve in crypto news is vital. I was able to profit myself because I learned to trade through Trade Genius Academy on the crypto side. I took part in various courses, personal coaching, chat rooms, signals trading tool. That's where I look for price signals in cryptocurrency from Bob Kudla at TradeGeniusAcademy.com, who also offers other signature trading tools for stocks, exchange-traded funds, binary options, and commodities. All you need is an internet connection to get started. Interact with Trade Genius community, fellow traders, and certified Trade Genius trades, alongside professionals who generate revenue for themselves in the stock market every single day. Live buy and sell alerts text to your phone. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Click on the link in the description box below and use the promo code SUMMER for 40% off all non-bundled items. And now on with the video. Good afternoon, everyone. As always, we're back for another month of exciting analysis on what's happened the previous month and how we see that transiting into the next 30, 60, 90 days and giving you a little bit better forecast out what we're seeing. Bob and myself, David DuByne right here from Adapt 2030, Bob Kudla, TradeLikeAGenius.com. Let me ask you then, how long do you really realistically think that they can continue with this rent eviction moratorium before people say, you know what, everything's open, all these countries are open, you can't keep this thing going? Like, how long do you think they can really string this down the road of the evictions of people who aren't paying the rent and now taking advantage of it versus being in a dire situation?
Well, right now they keep trying to extend it. I'm sure there's litigation, in other places right now saying, hey, I can't pay my mortgage or pay my rent, so you're going to make me hand my property over to BlackRock, right? At a deal, and that's not fair. The regulation, that's an illegal taking as far as I'm concerned. You took from me to give to somebody else, and using this emergency so it's going to be a problem. And, it's not going to be long before things start breaking in those homes and the owners are just not going to come by and fix them, and you'll start seeing, hey, I'm not paying the water bill for the house, right? Water gets cut off, and, you have to get permission from the property owner to be able to, to get things in your name. So, you get a roof leak. Yeah, I'll get to it when you pay my rent. You know what I mean? You're going to start seeing crazy stuff like that. And that stuff's all going to bubble up into the news. And I think the courts are going to have to get involved. If you notice, the courts have started to. So we're starting to get this point where I think people are getting restless and grumbly. And if you throw on top of it people's inability to do things because they have to use all their money for food and energy, lodging and health, then it's a formula that I think will blow up. Like I said, I think the Biden administration will not get through the election cycle before something like this blows up one way or the other. There's no Goldilocks here.
Yeah, and watch the mainstream media spin the narrative of, oh, the slumlord landlord won't fix the roof for this poor little family that's been living there rent-free for 2 years almost. Like, you can already see how that's going to move. But places like Knoxville, recently they put out a new top 10 list of the best cities to move to in the United States. Well, Knoxville made that list, and suddenly there's no more rentals around at all. I mean, they were all swooped up. There's a list now 6 to 8 months waiting list to actually find a rental place. So think about the kind of position that puts people in. If they are kicked out with the rent moratoriums, they finally have to leave the homes. There's going to be a lot of rejostling of people who have money that can get in there without, causing a problem to the landlord, so they can pay their mortgages and onward. How many people are going to end up on the street, and how much chaos is that going to cause through just the social fabric? Because this grand solar minimum, when you look back through history, there's always three major things that happen. You get the population migration, which is very similar to what the circumstances are today, but it was based on food production back then and inavailability to grow food. So people would pack up the ox cart and then move. The change of the government was always with that, some kind of overthrow, restructuring, change of the government. And then at the same time, the money system, whatever form it was back then, but the way that the monies were worth it, and the grains on the trade, on the portions of silver, et cetera, everything had changed. You got a change in the economy, the population migration, and government overthrows. And, I think this very much plugs into that. What people are going to be, if you're going to have 10 million people out on the street with no place to live, I mean, what kind of chaos would that cause across the society? Where are they going to go? To start walking across the countryside?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird is that there's enough housing stock. So either it's being hoarded up, or I think what's happening is that people left the urban areas and moved into the suburban areas, and they have no intention of going back to the urban areas. So I think what we're going to see happen is that we're going to see the price of housing in the urban cores collapse, and people are don't want to go back to the core. So it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to be forced back into the cities. When this is all said and done. If you're poor and you live in a suburb or an extra community, and you have to be forced to move into a dangerous city, it's going to get quite interesting to see how this goes. But look, these cities are done for. I mean, look, they're done for. Their policies they border on the criminal, and they're insane. And so unless you don't have any brains in your head, you're not moving back to the city anytime soon.
Yeah, and one last question for you here. While we're covering this 15% global minimum tax was ratified by the G7 countries here. So how do you think that's going to play into everything that we're seeing with the inflation? Because a lot of companies are offshoring, and again, they try to demonize the company, like, oh, Amazon, they didn't pay any tax, they held off in Cayman Islands or something, or they went up to Vanuatu, or they're over there in Puerto Rico, or there's a million offshore destinations that they can quote and say, look, they're not paying enough tax. But what's this going to do for the company structure if indeed, let's say, it does come to fruition, all companies that are offshoring still pay a 15% tax globally? Where does the money go? I'm sure it doesn't go back to the home country. It is a United Nations fund. But how will that drive prices, do you think, in the final, for you and I, the end buyer, if all these companies are suddenly going to get hit with a 15% global minimum tax for operations? Think that'll have any sway into anything?
No, because it's not going to happen. They have to be it's one thing to be able to say that at a nice meeting. It wasn't like they signed that thing and it becomes law, right? Not going to happen in the US, not going to happen in Ireland. Okay. And there's a number of countries out there, Cyprus, and then obviously the tax havens that you refer to. Look what El Salvador is doing. Convert your money into crypto, send it to my country, and you'll never pay any taxes. So, it's going to be, there's always going to be competition. Somebody's always going to take advantage of the fact that corporate wages are too high in the eyes of the corporate owners. And to the extent that they can set up a shell in another country, then they're going to do so. And so I don't think that anything's ever going to happen. I think it was all dog and pony show.
Yeah, and you have to wonder how many dog and pony shows are out there for the distraction while these other things are occurring with the inflation and just the repeats in history to keep you distracted while all these things, you're not really looking at the true cause of the problem or the true problem.
Yeah.
The distraction is the minimal problem to deflect away from the larger problem.
Yes, daily. The distractions are daily. That's why you've seen all these stupid games with these short squeezes and stuff like that. They're giving people something to chase. Look at this shiny nickel. And in the meantime, the big money's been slowly getting out of the markets. And then we'll get a rug pull. So that's what we're watching.
Where are you seeing the money going, and what kind of volumes are you talking about of outflows and drains?
Not just billions, been coming out for the last 6 to 8 weeks. So it goes to cash.
To
So
cash.
well, also margin debt gets reduced too. So people don't realize, there's no one-for-one relationship. There's a buyer and seller. Yeah, that matches up. But then, if I'm trading on margin and I decide to sell a stock that I own, I'm really just handing that cash back to the bank because I borrowed it from the bank. Okay, if I'm on margin, so you're going to start seeing a reduction in margin, and that's when you should get scared. You should check the margin balances every day of the major brokers, and if it starts to fall, that means money's leaving the market, and that means sell-offs are going to happen. So just a little trick there for you.
Yeah, and that crypto lending as well. There's a lot of inflows into the crypto lending doing the same thing, but what if there's a flash crash and then people get executed out on their whatever they posted up as their collateral? If it's going to be moving or more toward a legal sense down in El Salvador, down in Central America, and there's some other countries talking about that too. I mean, that's going to create its own different banking sector and sector itself. Are people going to run down to El Salvador and become citizens so they can take advantage of the tax loopholes down there to borrow using the lending platforms? We're entering a whole new world here. And how much distraction will there be? Because that new 2020 tax form this year for the IRS, for those of you in the US, there's that one line there. Do you own crypto? Did you transfer crypto? Did you buy crypto? Did you sell it? Did you bequeath it? Was it given to you? And you have to check yes or no. So they're already chasing that down.
Yeah, that's going to be more of a look. The governments are really getting a hard on for crypto this year, because I think they know they're going to have the dollar and currency around the world are going to suffer, and they're trying to scare people out of these coins. But look, this money's just going into stronger hands. I've been buying, and I'm not a speculator in crypto. I speculate in the stock market. I'm just slowly buying every week. And I bought today again at 31.9, and if it goes down to below that spike low that we had a couple weeks ago, then I'll be putting bids in at 27.5, and if it goes there, 18.8 is typically a round trip for an Eiffel Tower move, and I'll buy there again. And because I'm looking at crypto in the decades, because this actually is not for myself, it's for my daughter. And we need to have alternatives to the current fiat regimes. My generation, I have silver, and I trade silver miners, gold miners and energy stocks. These kids are only into crypto. And it's going to be between the fiat regime and the I'll call it the non-fiat regime. The kids today know they're being screwed, and that's why you see Wall Street bets out there, and they don't want central bankers being able to print money in hands to their friends. They patently understand that it's wrong. Unlike our generation, is that they're doing something about it, because they don't have the outlets that we had. We were making money in the stock market, we were making money in real estate, our jobs were good. All that's gone for these kids. Look, I have a 20-year-old coming up. Now, she has skills, so she's going to be okay. But there's a lot of kids out there that are even more educated than she is, that are going to work for minimum wage. The jobs are offshore during this entire financialization process. So I think there's going to be this civil war, and we should talk about it next week, because there's going to be tremendous ways to profit from it. At the same time, you're going to have your ear to the ground, because there's going to be a lot of fractures, and some weeks and months may not be pleasant as we wiggle out of the old snakeskin into something new. So
let me pick your brain for a second then. Since you said that the G7, global 15% tax was not going to move forward, and it might be a dog and pony show to, put a shiny carrot out there. What do you think about the rumblings of them talking about unrealized capital gains on the holdings, which comes right back into what you're talking about, generational wealth? If you're buying something right now in terms of crypto, throwing it in a wallet, going to leave it in my drawer for 20 years. I'll come back to it. But, USG Gov here talking about unrealized capital gains, and that would go across the board from precious metals to your crypto, to your house, to whatever else you own, your stocks, portfolio, anything. You think that's realization coming through? Or do you think they're both just like ridiculous talk to put up a false talking point to direct you in a different direction, make you look left?
Yeah, just to tell their supporters, look, we're trying to do for you. Not going to happen. They have to break the filibuster, number one, which they can't do. Then they have to convince senators to actually vote for this, which means that all their supporters are going to take massive haircuts. Not going to happen. There might be some other ways they try different things, and I'm not saying that we're not. I think the way we tax our country is kind of out of balance, but we have a spending problem more than a tax problem in this country. So we that's not going to happen. That's just rhetoric to scare people and to tell their base that they're doing things for them, but not going to happen. Not in the U.S. May happen somewhere else, but it won't happen here.
And then, the U.S. and Taiwan, getting into these trade talks here along with G7 to highlight everything going behind China's back. What kind of correction are we going to be looking at then? Because it seems that, as you talked about it, the world dividing, we're definitely seeing, Russia letting go of how many 186 billion in their holdings of U.S. treasuries and U.S. holdings, and poosh, that's gone. And China's moving the other direction, buying as much gold as they can, getting rid of their dollars. And then it's all in earnest on the books where you're seeing these giant news articles coming out. So how far are we away from some sort of conflict? Because you mentioned that the last time we talked that you thought something was going to get hot over there. And sure enough, right on cue, this is what was that on? Yeah, the 7th, the U.S. and Taiwan launched trade talks along with parts of the G7 as China, scolds and does its backflips that you can't talk to them directly. But this is exactly what that same kind of highway and conduit we were talking about last time. Is something going to get hot over there? What do you think?
It's not a cold war and it's not a hot war, but it's a secret war going on right now. But yeah, look, the Chinese they're lashing out, and for good reason, because the Chinese aren't in a very strong strategic position. Just because you do all the manufacturing in the world and you're a bully, doesn't mean that you have something sustainable. Companies can leave your country fairly quickly. You can't feed yourself and you can't energize yourself. That's a big problem. And could you just imagine the American people turn on the Chinese, politically, and the United States announces the next day, Canada, the US, Australia, Argentina, and Brazil, we just decided to form an organization of food exporting countries. How do you think they would react to that?
Terrified.
They'd be terrified. I think, those things are potentially in play, right? And so, short of a nuclear attack, I think there might be proxy stuff, and there's like a proxy thing.
With all eyes focused on China, they're going to have to do something to get the eyes off, because, there's so much now coming in with the cronyism and just fictitiousness of the illusion here in our own government at home, which is so in your face now. It was in your face before, but now it's so in there that you either have the choice of believe the lies, continue with your stability and normalcy bias down that direction, even though everything you're living is a complete lie and you're willing to accept that reality. And a lot of people will, because they can't deal with the other part here that, well, things are not as they appear. But with so many eyes on China here, and then the new lockdown starting in Guangzhou and that whole Shenzhen area, it's going to huge, gigantic lockdown again starting in China 2.0. And at the same time, the COVID outbreaks have closed the Taiwanese chip maker factories over there. So anything that was coming chip wise, with all these cars that are sitting idle that can't get finished up, and all these appliances and all these other amazing gamut and array of electronic products that can't be finished and shipped because of one little tiny part. Well, now that one bastion of hope of Taiwan being able to supply the chips to get some of the manufacturing up and running again just went down hard. Not coming back for weeks, if not months. They're locked the place down. China's locking down again 2.0, and then all eyes are on China. So again, we get these set of circumstances. Something got to break to push over that way, because China just can't take the blame on this again. So I feel something's going to happen to try to deflect or, look over that way. Because every time we could go through history, and when large events are pointing eyes toward the real causes of things, all of a sudden these other things happen here. and he
You
just
mean
gets
like
drafted
aliens?
into the weeds.
You mean like aliens? Aliens.
Aliens, yeah, our own anti-gravitics, anti-gravity craft that have been developed since the 1940s, starting with the Bell, that
Yeah.
discharge electricity free. We could have had free electricity off those anti-gravitic devices that are quote unquote UFOs. Those,
Yeah, that's what's
yeah.
coming.
All right, I'm going to ask you before we go here, one last one. Throw us a quick nugget from your trading. Anything that somebody might want to take a look at, just like you did last time. You talked about a couple. We're talking fertilizer last time. So what do you got for us at the end of this month? If you stuck around this long, this is your nugget. Thanks, Bob. Give us a goodie that people might trade on. That wow, thanks for the nugget.
Yeah, it's energy names. They just oil's going from 70 to 100 in the next 120 days. So
it's gonna hurt. It's
yeah,
gonna
so
hurt.
just look at that. Gasoline demand is rising, production's not. Oil demand is rising, production's not. And these names are just going to keep getting recycled over and over and over again. So you have to come to tradelikeagenius.com and join the service. We got deals going right now, and you're going to enjoy it immensely.
Fuel stabilizer is going to be my call. If fuel's going to go up, the smart ones are going to be buying thousands of gallons of fuel to store out somewhere. They're going to need some fuel stabilizer for that. Bob, I thank you for joining me. That was a great conversation. I learned so much, and hope everybody else got something out of the conversation. I'm going to leave all the links in the description box below for you to take a look at. Contact Bob and his crew over there, tradelikeagenius.com, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks for joining.
Great. Thank you.